رغم الوعود الأمريكية باستثناء مناطق شمال شرق سوريا من عقوبات قيصر، إلا أن الوضع الاقتصادي يزداد سوءا يوما بعد آخر. هذا من جهة. من جهة أخرى لا يزال الملف الأمني يؤرق السكان المحليين، لا سيما مخيم الهول وعناصر داعش المعتقلين لدى قوات سوريا الديمقراطية. هذه القضايا وقضايا أخرى نناقشها مع المتحدث الرسمي باسم قوات التحالف الدولي ضد داعش العقيد مايلز كيغينز. مرحبا بك العقيد مايلز كيغينز. تشير المعلومات إلى أن قواتكم أوقفت نسبة كبيرة من عملياتها بعد قرار الانسحاب في العام الماضي. هل يمكننا القول إن وجودكم بات شكليا في المنطقة؟
Hamza, first, I'm happy to talk to North Press. This is maybe my fourth or fifth time speaking to North Press. Your network, your media agency does an outstanding job covering the security situation in north and east of Syria. As you are well aware and mentioned, the coalition forces moved out of the north and west of Syria in November and repositioned to bases in Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor. And here we are partnered with the Quwat Syria Democratique for missions and operations to defeat Daesh, and also to conduct security patrols for critical infrastructure. Something that's important to know is it is the Syrian Democratic Forces, the men and women of the SDF, who are providing security, and they are the ones who are searching for ISIS sleeper cells. And the coalition is here to support them with the same support and advice we have provided since 2014.
لا تزال بعض المناطق في دير الزور تعتبر بؤرة لانتشار خلايا داعش. ما السبب برأيك؟
I'll describe for you what we see as the state of ISIS, where ISIS is today in the summer of 2020. Today, ISIS is not capable of holding physical territory. They do not have any population under its control. And in most instances, ISIS is living in the desert, in the Badia Desert. In Iraq, they're living in mountains and caves away from cities. ISIS is struggling. Their capabilities for sophisticated attacks are down. Their ability to produce propaganda is down. Their ability to recruit new fighters is down. Their money to pay fighters and widows is down, all because of the efforts of the Syrian Democratic Forces and the close work the SDF does with civil councils throughout Deir ez-Zor province, including along the Forat.
يقول التحالف الدولي إن هدفه محاربة داعش، لكن هناك عشرات الوثائق التي تثبت وجود مقاتلين سابقين للتنظيم في مناطق سيطرة الفصائل التابعة للمعارضة السورية والتي تتبع لتركيا. لماذا لا يقوم التحالف باستهداف هؤلاء العناصر في تلك المنطقة؟
Okay, so I've explained that the coalition is located in Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor, as well as Antaf garrison. And the situation in north and west Syria is a place that the coalition watches for ISIS activity. And you may have seen in the news, ISIS leaders have been killed there in recent weeks by sophisticated weapons. I don't have all the details, but it is good for everyone to know that the coalition will do anything to strike anywhere to take terrorists off the battlefield. The coalition's role, we are the global coalition to defeat Daesh. So ISIS is our focus, ISIS is our enemy, and helping people who've been affected by ISIS is related to our mission. And these other groups, the coalition or nations in the coalition, the United States, will strike Al-Qaeda or other groups if it is determined by authorities, decision makers inside the United States. But that activity is separate from the global coalition.
لكن عندما يضرب التحالف الدولي في مناطق شمال شرق سوريا قبل الآن، يعني مثلا أي منطقة يقوم التحالف بالهجوم عليها منطقة داعش يعني. هؤلاء العناصر قسم منهم يفر إلى مناطق إدلب، وهناك وثائق وأدلة أن العشرات وربما المئات من عناصر داعش موجودين في هذه المناطق، بغض النظر عن تنفيذ بعض العمليات المحددة مثل عملية مقتل زعيم التنظيم أبو بكر البغدادي. هناك عشرات أو ربما المئات من العناصر الفارين والذين يتمركزون في منطقة إدلب. لماذا لا يقوم التحالف بملاحقة هؤلاء العناصر؟
I've mentioned to you a moment ago that we have struck ISIS members in the northwest of Syria in recent weeks. But you're right, the coalition does not have a presence of troops on the ground there. And in many areas in northwest Syria, our partners in the Syrian Democratic Forces are not responsible for security there. So we are not going to put American troops and coalition troops in an area where we do not have a security partner.
مؤخرا أعلنت تركيا وبشكل رسمي عن تهريبها لامرأة من الجنسية المالدوفية من مخيم الهول، وتبين فيما بعد أن هذه المرأة كانت في صفوف تنظيم داعش مع زوجها. ما تعليقكم على هذا الموضوع؟
The situation in Al-Hol with the foreigners annex is an international problem. And it will take the international community to solve the problem of the 10,000 ISIS detainees as well as the ISIS families in Al-Hol. The situation that you're mentioning did not involve the coalition as an umbrella, as an overarching entity, and the United States was not consulted in this matter. So I refer you back to the governments that were involved in this movement of the woman.
لكن موضوع المخيم والعلاقة بين قوات سوريا الديمقراطية التي تحمي المخيم بالتنسيق مع التحالف الدولي.
I'll describe for you how the coalition is helping the SDF. The first thing I always want to remind your viewers and readers of is the coalition does not have personnel inside Al-Hol, Al-Roj, or any detention camps. The coalition is supporting with humanitarian assistance. We have provided training for the Asaish who guard detainees and equipment that is non-lethal, like shields, batons, riot control gas. So if there's any uprising, any insurrection, they can resolve it and preserve life. While we're on this subject, I would like to take a moment to commend the Bluemont Group and the non-government organizations working inside Al-Hol. They have done an excellent job in a camp where there are tens of thousands of people to prevent the spread of coronavirus by making good decisions to keep people safe and provide personal protective equipment. And the nations of the coalition are contributing testing equipment, gloves and masks and sanitation, hygiene supplies so people do not get COVID-19 in the camps. While we're continuing to talk about this, the coalition is interested in helping some businesses in Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor provide logistics and products and construction at the camps. And we are funding construction for new barracks for the Asaish and separate trailers, buildings for a clinic in case anybody gets sick. This has been about $1 million from coalition funds to local businesses to make the camp safer.
سنأتي على هذا الموضوع، لكن بالنسبة لموضوع المخيم يعني بالتأكيد ينبغي شكر المنظمات التي تقدم المساعدات، لكن هناك تسجيلات مصورة ووثائق تثبت أن بعض الموظفين في هذه المنظمات يقومون بتهريب عائلات عناصر داعش من المخيم.
There is record also of Asaish stopping people from infiltrating and leaving the camp or coming into the camp. So there's a balance. Some of these family members are sworn allegiance to ISIS. It's not like we're talking about, very nice people. Some of them have this evil mindset, and they will do anything they can to pass money and information and try to leave and continue their terror.
يعني إلى متى يبقى مخيم الهول قنبلة موقوتة في المنطقة؟ يعني ما هي خطط التحالف حيال هذا المخيم الخطر؟
Yeah, the coalition's principle is that this is an international problem, and each nation has different rules and different laws. And within the rules of each individual country, for instance, if there is a person from the United States says, we will take the US citizen back, we will prosecute them. Some other countries may have different rules. So it's up to each nation to work within their own rules, their own policies and laws to reduce the foreign population in Al-Hol. So this is a long-term problem that we don't expect any solutions for quickly. And in addition to the foreigners, there are also people from the region, from Syria and Iraq. There are discussions between leaders in each side of the border in Iraq and Syria about small amount of people coming back to Iraq, but that will continue to progress. And all of this is impacted by COVID and travel restrictions and safety and physical distancing. This is why we're sitting so far apart. That's just the world we live in. But the coalition will continue to provide humanitarian support for Al-Hol and the other detention camps too. One more thing about Al-Hol. I want to try to dispel the perception that there are 70,000 hardcore ISIS members in Al-Hol. The vast majority of people in Al-Hol are displaced civilians. They were in families in areas that were affected by ISIS. They had no place to go. Their towns were destroyed. Some of them were taken against their will. But there's a smaller amount of people who are the hardcore ISIS-related terrorists and supporters. But it's not fair to do a broad paintbrush and say, everybody here, 70,000 terrorists and terrorist kids, they're going to go everywhere. That's not appropriate.
لكن هناك نحو 11 أو أكثر من 11 شخصا من العائلات الأجانب وأطفالهم في المخيم.
True, there are. And those members are being watched and by the Asaish. And again, the international community will have to solve the problem, including the local regional governments in Iraq and Syria, to find a final solution for these families. And most importantly, we want there to be opportunities for their kids to grow up and have some stability in their life and have an education and a mindset that is one to love people and care about the world and do positive things.
يعني دائما خلال الأشهر والسنوات الماضية يعني يتم الحديث دائما عن وجود خطط، عن وجود حلول، لكن على أرض الواقع يعني ليس هناك حلول عملية أو حلول ملموسة على الأرض. يعني موضوع الهول دائما يتم إعلاميا الحديث عن وجود خطط لدى التحالف مستقبلية كذا، لكن على أرض الواقع المخيم كما هو خطره يزداد يوما بعد آخر.
Hey, I'm spokesman for the coalition, and this is a massive problem that has government leaders involved, political scientists, psychologists, lawyers, elected officials, humanitarian experts, and from this chair, I can't tell you the sole solution. This is why I keep reminding your viewers that it is an international problem that will require all of us working together and committed to not accepting that Al-Hol should exist and that people should be there indefinitely. But a lot of different discussions have to happen with a lot of different nations, and those nations will make individual decisions about people, and that includes Iraq and Syrian citizens.
لكن الوجود الأمريكي في المنطقة وجود عسكري، يعني كل الأمور متداخلة فيما بينها، يعني لا يمكن لنا ربما تطلب هذا الأمر من الساسة الأمريكيين. يعني الموضوع الأمريكي عسكري تقريبا في المنطقة، فلذلك دائما التوجه يكون نحو التحالف باعتبار أن هذه المنطقة من نفوذه في سوريا.
Yeah, again, U.S. forces are not inside Al-Hol, and we don't see a lot of problems around the perimeter in Al-Hol or Al-Hol city. And we're helping the Syrian Democratic Forces be successful in their role at Al-Hol. The SDF today, if we look 6 years ago and said, okay, we've established the SDF, and they will have a camp with 70,000 people and 30 other detention facilities. You'd say, no way, this could never happen. But this is what ISIS has brought to this region. ISIS attracted people who were, some of them were misguided and duped. Some of them were hardcore terrorists with a apocalyptic mindset. And we did battle with them. And the SDF had 11,000 martyrs fighting ISIS, and 20,000 wounded, and thousands of civilians killed, wounded, captured, enslaved, raped by ISIS. So now we have these detention facilities and these camps to deal with, and there's no quick solutions, no quick answers, but the coalition will continue to support the Syrian Democratic Forces with this important mission.
بالانتقال إلى المحور السياسي في المنطقة، كيف يرى التحالف الدولي المفاوضات الجارية بشأن وحدة الموقف الكردي؟
Yeah, the military arm of the coalition is not involved in these intra-Kurdish dialogue. My colleagues who are in the State Department, they have been involved with this, and I refer you to them for further questions. As a military man, I try to stay out of political matters.
لكن هذه المفاوضات جرت برعاية شريككم على الأرض، الشريك العسكري قوات سوريا الديمقراطية.
Oh, yes, supported because we have the people on the ground in this region. But the inter-Kurdish dialogues are just that, inter-Kurdish dialogues. It's not Kurdish coalition, US, other countries dialogues. It's Kurdish leaders from different political groups talking to Kurdish leaders from different political groups.
في زيارتكم السابقة لشمال شرق سوريا اجتمعتم مع شركات محلية لدعم مناطق نفوذكم في ظل تنفيذ عقوبات قيصر. ماذا كانت بنود هذا الاتفاق وإلى أين وصل هذا الملف؟
When I was here in March, I talked to you about what we called a vendor vetting rodeo, a place where local businesses could register and compete for contracts from the coalition. And today we have completed several of those contracts, and at this base where we are in Rumelan, there's local Syrian businesses who are providing services including construction, food service, internet for the troops who are here. This is good. Previously, this type of support was trucked in from Iraq. Now, we're able to help local people get jobs. I'll highlight the Horizons company. Horizons, since they have been through the process in March, is now doing several $100,000 worth of business. They have hired 28 local employees. There are opportunities for women entrepreneurs, men entrepreneurs, Arabs, Kurds, Assyrians, Syriacs, everybody has an opportunity to compete for these contracts.
على أرض الواقع ليس هناك ما يتلمسه المواطن. يعني موضوع الشركات إلى الآن لا شيء على أرض الواقع سوى هذه الشركة، يعني توظيف 28 شخص لا يذكر مقارنة مع تدهور الوضع الاقتصادي في ظل تطبيق عقوبات قيصر.
This is a new process, and also you have to consider the coalition does not have that many troops in the region. But I'll give you another example. There's a detention facility near Shadadi, and a local business was awarded a contract for $900,000 to have new barracks for the Asaish guards. There are concrete blast walls, T-walls, that are at our bases in Hasaka, T2, and Green Village, and those are all now manufactured and emplaced by businesses from this region instead of Iraq.
هل يمكن لنا أن نفهم أن الاتفاق مع هذه الشركات المحلية هي لتطوير المؤسسات العسكرية في المنطقة أم لتأهيل الخدمات وتحسين الوضع الاقتصادي للسكان؟
Yeah. The coalition does contracts with local businesses that are necessary for the security and the life support of the coalition. We have very strict contracting rules, and because of those contracting rules, there has to be a need for the coalition before the money is given to the local business. In many instances, these businesses already existed, so the coalition is now a new customer of a previously existing business.
بالعودة إلى الموضوع العسكري، روسيا وحكومة دمشق تشكلان وحدات عسكرية محلية هدفها ربما استهداف قوات التحالف. ما هي معلوماتكم حول هذه المسألة؟
Yeah, again, we're here to fight ISIS, to protect critical infrastructure with the Syrian Democratic Forces. Other militaries in the region, sometimes we see eye to eye with them. Other times, I don't know what their agenda is. With Russia specifically, we have a process to deconflict our movements with them in the air and on the ground. And we talk to the Russians daily. And when there are encounters, each of those encounters has been resolved without escalation. This is just the way things are in northeast Syria with Russians and United States forces on the road.
بعبارة أخرى، كيف يمكن تقييم العلاقة بين قوات التحالف والقوات الروسية في المنطقة؟
The coalition forces and Russian forces about 5 years ago established deconfliction protocols, and the coalition has an office called the Russian Deconfliction Cell. The Russians have a similar office, and there are conversations that happen daily between colonels. They have a special phone where they can call each other and talk about the schedule for where they are going to patrol in the air and on the ground. There are also conversations that happen at the brigadier level and at the 3-star level less frequently. This has worked for 5 years, and we expect that there will be continued professional interactions that are resolved without escalation between all military forces in this region.
مؤخرا صرح ضابط أمريكي يعرف باسم دام لوكالتنا بأنهم سيمنعون انتشار القوات الروسية في مناطق النفط المحيطة بمدينة ديريك المالكية. لكن قبل أيام وصلت دورية روسية إلى القرب من إحدى قواعد التحالف الدولي. ماذا يعني ذلك؟
Well, look, the people in Derek are very welcoming to the American troops. And you can see this by how the people respond when Russia comes into that area. And regardless of anything else, I want to assure you that there are these deconfliction protocols. We know where the Russians will go, they know where we will go, and our patrols are about security and defeating Daesh. The Russians, I don't know, they're driving around, I'm not sure. As long as there's no escalation, everything is okay. It looks a little bit strange for people outside, but the people in Hasaka and Derrick and Tal Tamer, they're used to seeing Russians go down the road, US go down the road, everything will be fine, and we're talking all the time.
السؤال الأخير وربما الإجابة عن هذا السؤال مقلق بالنسبة للسكان المحليين في المنطقة. يعني في حال تعرض شريككم قوات سوريا الديمقراطية لهجوم تركي آخر، كيف سيكون موقف التحالف من الناحية العملية؟
The coalition within our rules of engagement has the capability of protecting our Syrian Democratic Forces partners against attacks by ISIS. Also, coalition troops can obviously protect ourselves from any threats that would come into this region. I mentioned that there's a deconfliction protocols with Russia. There's also deconfliction protocols and discussions with other nations in the region. And we stand by the principle that civilians should not be harmed in conflict. And the places where the coalition is tend to have more stability, where we are physically present, where the U.S. is physically present than some of the other locations. It's a sensitive matter, I understand, for the people in this region. I have friends in Kamishli and Rumalan, in Shuhel, in Omar oil fields, and some who have family in Kobani, Afrin. I understand that it's sensitive, but I just tell you as the representative of the coalition, we are focused south of the border to defeat Daesh in Hasaka and Deir ez-Zor, and that is where our commitment is. I thank you for your time and your questions. It's always good to be with North Press. You all do a fantastic job. Shukran jazilan, Hamza. It's good to meet you. Sharafna. Galak Spas.
المتحدث الرسمي باسم قوات التحالف الدولي ضد داعش العقيد مايلز كيغينز، شكرا جزيلا لك.
Afwan.